Welcome back to Late to the Party. It's the hottest new TV/movie/game review show on the face of the earth, where I talk about stuff that's already been out for a while, but I'm just now getting around to experiencing, making me pretty late to the party. Today we're talking about Chris Pratt's Amazon original show. It's The Terminal List. Now, I've only ever really seen Pratt in comedies or blockbuster movies where he kind of always just plays the same type of generic action hero, so it was quite a breath of fresh air seeing Pratt take on this role of a PTSD-ridden, mentally ill Navy SEAL, where he arguably gives off his best on-screen performance, at least in my opinion. Now, my first thought that I had while watching this pilot, while we follow Pratt's character James Reese and his squad go on this mission, and all I thought was that this just felt so incredibly like Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Nope, not that one, or those. Okay, yeah, that one. In the first episode, we literally see two characters from the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. We got Commander Graves, Sergeant Graves, whatever his name was in that game. I just remember blowing him up with a tank. And then Ghost. Into like the actual mission itself, they were like in the night vision, just everything about it felt so, I felt like I was watching a Modern Warfare cutscene. But we're not here to talk about the show's similarities to Call of Duty. We're here to talk about its action, performances, and story. So let's dive in. First off, let's talk this show's story. I went into it completely blind, as I do typically with most movies and shows. But going into The Terminal List, I was kind of expecting just to see this generic Army, Navy SEAL action story play out, but it ended up being a whole lot more than that. Quick little brief story synopsis. We follow Commander James Reese. Him and his squad are on this mission down in these tunnels in an uncharted foreign land, and the mission goes pretty stinky. And all 12 of the SEALs except Chris Pratt, they kick the bucket. But Reese returns home and starts to sniff out how stinky that mission was, and that something was a little bit fishy about it, as he begins to sniff out all the people and parties that were involved with making this mission go wrong, and also unveils the fact that there was this experimental drug that was implanted in all these SEALs' heads that none of them knew about, which later gave them brain tumors, which would heavily play into the plot for Chris Pratt's character later on. The pilot ends with Reese's wife and daughter being assassinated in his kitchen floor. He begins to craft his hit list to hunt down and kill all the people that were involved with the mission and the experimental drug and the death of his family. He was a big angry boy. The brain tumor adds a really cool extra layer to the story because it causes Reese to have these like hyper surreal mixed memory realities where all of his memories are like overlapping on top of each other, and it plays into the mental illness side of his character into a really cool way. And I was really engaged throughout all 8 episodes as the bigger picture in the story began to unveil more and more. Now, the action scenes in this show were pretty dang good. I had read that actual Navy SEALs were on set and like were helping train the whole cast to make sure that all the moves they were doing in combat scenes were like exact to what the actual SEALs would do in situations, which I thought added a really cool layer of realism. I don't know if that's the right word. It made it feel realer. Whenever we watch Reese in a gunfight, it feels extremely precise, and it seems like he knows what he's doing, and then that's how an actual SEAL would be moving and acting in a combat situation such as the ones Reese often finds himself in. There was one action sequence that I really enjoyed in particular that takes place in Mexico when Reese is tracking down the actual hitman Sicario that had killed his wife and daughter, and when I went into the show, I was not at all expecting to see Lego Movie Guy and the new voice of Mario commit one of the most brutal on-screen kills I've seen in an action drama before. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool. Everything is awesome. Like I've kind of said earlier, I was genuinely surprised by Chris Pratt's performance in this show. It is definitely his best on-screen performance. He really sells that broken Navy SEAL act and portrays a whole lot more emotion than I typically see in him sticking his hand out at dinosaurs and, I don't know, shooting aliens and stuff. I also really like Taylor Kitsch's, I don't know if I say his name, Kish. Anyways, his character, who plays James Reese's best friend Ben and is kind of like the guy in the chair for him. He played a really fun part in the show and has a pretty cool twist in the finale. Now, there was one small little story thing that I just thought was so ridiculous. There's this FBI agent named Tony Liddell, who's like the head FBI dude on the manhunt case to try and track down and stop Reese because he's been labeled as a domestic terrorist, and rightfully so. He's shooting up people in the street. But at a later point in the story, Agent Liddell gets kicked off the case and he attempts to take matters into his own hands, but it doesn't really end too well for him. But in the finale, after Reese had his big last shootout and eliminated his last big target, Liddell catches up to Reese and has him at gunpoint, but Chris Pratt just says a cool line. I'm already dead. And Liddell is just like, oh, I didn't know you were chill like that. Yeah, you good, bro. Just lets him leave. So I guess James Reese just has some insane plot armor, but I don't really know what to expect. He is the main character of the show. But besides that, there weren't really any story aspects that I disliked. It was a pretty fun show with a cool, engaging story and some really killer action scenes. And it's a pretty quick watch. It's only 8 episodes on Amazon, so if you're into that kind of action drama thing, I totally would recommend checking it out. But I'd love to see Chris Pratt try and take on more character roles like this in the future. And I mean, that's all I really have to say on the show. 4 dead wives out of 5.
Everything is awesome.